Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The RNC 8 is a group of 8 activists targeted at the outset of the 2008 Republican National Convention for their political organizing work. The case finally came to an end 2 years after the convention, as we'll see in this segment.
Think back to the week of September 1, 2008, and what this street looked like. This section of downtown St. Paul was occupied by the police and the National Guard, and it was all because thousands of people had decided that they had the courage to stand up and tell the world that we weren't going to stand by and accept what the American government was doing. And out of the 800 people who were arrested at the Republican National Convention in 2008, some of the first were our comrades in the RNC 8 behind here. On September 1, they were in jail. And now, finally 2 years later, it seems like this has finally come to a conclusion.
The preemptive raids and arrests before the RNC were part of a trumped-up threat to justify spending $50 million for a federalized policing regime during the Republican National Convention here in St. Paul.
We wanted to show that we have a different idea about how society and the economy can be structured. A more ecologically responsible, community-minded, egalitarian way called anarchism. We tried to work according to these values and to value every person who said they wanted to work with us. The Welcoming Committee approached this enormous organizing job with creativity, humor, and idealism. From the ironic name of our group, the Welcoming Committee, right, to the satirical video with which we kicked off our recruitment drive, to the cheeky press releases, which drove some of you folks absolutely wild, to the periodic statements of solidarity. There was an engaging lightheartedness to much of what we did. We were serious about our task, and we loved to poke fun at the stereotypes people hold about anarchists. Meanwhile, we consciously tried to build a new world out of the ashes of the old, and we practiced the skills that we will need to create a future we really do want to live in. Sheriff Fletcher asked me on the first evening of the convention, when he got done threatening to arrest me, that what anarchism is all about. Sheriff Fletcher, are you listening? I'm now going to define anarchism. It's about democracy. It's a direct participatory way of governing ourselves, of working out problems with one another instead of delegating that power to anyone else. It's a way of settling our differences without reverting to the rules of the court. It's about responsibility to one another rather than submission to laws. It's about economic structures that provide for people's needs equally and doesn't reward greed. It's about respect for the planet and all of the beings on it and in it. Between the sheriff's investigation into the RNC Welcoming Committee and the prosecution of the case against the RNC 8, the state has probably spent about $500,000 trying to repress those ideas. It's spent a lot more on the weapons and the chemical agents, which are supposed to discourage we, the people, from taking our own lives and our own futures into our own hands.
What has been accomplished by the police infiltration, surveillance, vindictive prosecution, and more surveillance of legal defense committee protests? These activities represent a police state mentality. This case is over, but there's still a dozen lawsuits pending after the illegal mass arrests at the RNC, where we saw the flagrant use of chemical weapons and projectiles fired by riot police at crowds of protesters and bystanders.
When enough of us say no, and we really mean it, they do not have enough weapons to force us back into line. It is silly to think that any of this is really going to stop us from organizing, from building strong community institutions, from calling out injustice, from trying to get in the way of oppression. from acting in solidarity with people around the world who are experiencing the hard heel of U.S. imperialism.
There should be no doubt in anyone's mind that we support Eric Oslin, who will begin serving a jail sentence tomorrow. He's the lone RNC defendant who will go to jail. Putting Eric in jail serves no useful purpose. We all look forward to seeing him free soon.
These halls are advertised as a house of justice. In reality, this is a catacomb where cries for justice come to die. I am still strong standing here before you because I never simply called for justice. I knew those calls would go unanswered. I demand justice, yes, but I know the courts better than to believe they would or could grant it. That is why, when I stand here now, I say, I stand for justice, regardless of their opinion on the matter. I look around this city, and everything I see is made and controlled by people. Even the great river is channeled by concrete. People have created all of this. None of it is absolute. We could have created anything, but this is what we fabricated. This is what has been constructed, and a new world will not be built on its rotten foundation. Instead, the bricks, the mortar, the ideas and the systems all must be deconstructed. Expressions of unrest come not from one person or even one group of people alone, but from tumult in the social fabric. War, economic crisis, environmental devastation, that annoying boss at work. That is what brings people out into the street and out on the streets of St. Paul in September 1st, 2008. And on that day, for a brief moment, the authority lost control. And in their absence, real people began to remake the world. There were dance parties, debates, cries of pain and protest, and raw deconstruction of the old. All of it was together in one voice rejecting the fabrication. I was in jail for those 2 hours, but if anything I did helped bring them about, I couldn't be more proud, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, because my heart still beats, and until the day that it stops, I will fight for true freedom and an end to all oppression. And now I will quote the 80s pop sensation Pat Benatar. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
If the Democrats think we're going to give them a pass on their convention, should they bring it to Minneapolis in 2012, they'd better think again.
I'm Andy Thayer, and you're watching Chicago Independent Television.
I see the soul of a nation, must be true 'cause I've seen it on TV.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by Blackwater, a worldwide leader in security and murder. Learn more at blackwaterbook.com. Blackwater, we kill innocent Iraqis so that you can feel more secure.